Your addiction doesn't just affect you, it affects everybody around you, especially your children. As fathers, we don't often realize how we show up in our lives impacts our children and leaves lasting imprints. And today I want to take a step back and talk about something I've addressed before, but really go into what that means. How does addiction affect our children? What is the lasting imprint we're leaving on our children and what we can do about it? So first of all, I just want to say welcome back to my channel. My name is Dex Murphy and I'm a transformational coach that works with men and fathers who struggle with addictions, whether that's drugs or alcohol or any compulsive destructive behavior, in order to break free from that addiction and step into a life of freedom, purpose, and empowerment. So I'm glad you're here and let's jump in. So before we jump into the topic of how your addiction is negatively impacting your children, I just want to take a moment to say that this topic, how addiction impacts children, is one of the most passionate aspects behind the reason why I do the work that I do. Because when I look backwards about how our fathers, grandfathers, great-grandfathers, our ancestors have chosen to show up and shape their children's future and how that has rippled forward into today. When you look at society today, it is riddled with addiction, compulsive behavior, with men that are choosing to run from themselves and escape from life and choosing to live in a disempowered way, which is going to inevitably affect their children, our children, and the generations to come. So it's a huge passion of mine and the reason why I do the work that I do now, which is to work with men now to change the way they are living now in order to set themselves up for a better future, a more empowered, free, loving life. But most importantly, how much this will impact their children in a positive way, and that we can shift the direction in which we're heading as a society and start to teach our children to live in an embodied, emotionally present, loving, connected way so that they can pass that on to their children and we can shape the generations to come. So let's dive in. So as I've stated, one of the most overlooked consequences of your addiction is how this negatively impacts your children. And this isn't just about what they're witnessing on the day-to-day. Yes, this has a huge imprint on them and how they choose to show up in their lives. But it's more about the overall experience that they're having growing up in a household with a father who is addicted to some sort of behavior or substance, and how this experience shapes their emotions, their behaviors, and more importantly, the beliefs that they form about themselves and the world around them. So today I want to cover 5 huge impacts that your addiction is having on your children, how important this is to look at, but also how by addressing your addiction, stepping into a life of sobriety can alter not only your life, but can positively impact your children immediately and set them up for a successful and loving future. The first way in which your addiction is negatively impacting your children is emotional neglect. When you're in active addiction as a parent, as a father, there's no doubt that at some level you are emotionally disconnected. And when you are emotionally disconnected, there's no way in which you can be emotionally available and connected to your child. What your child needs most is safety, to be seen, heard, and felt. And when you're disconnected in that way, you are leaving them feeling unseen, unheard, and not safe in feeling and expressing their emotions or being okay with who they are. What this will lead to is struggles later in life with self-worth, that feeling of shame, or not knowing how to express their emotions in a safe way. And what this can often lead to is their own addictions or their own ways in order to escape from life and numb out their emotions within. The second major impact that your addiction is having on your children is unpredictability and instability. When we're in active addiction, often what comes with that is really big mood swings and a lot of inconsistencies in our behaviors and our emotions and our words and a lot of broken promises to our children. And when your child grows up in this type of environment within the household, what they learn early on is that they cannot rely on the sole person that is supposed to make them feel safe in this world, their parents, their fathers. And what this will bring is a breakdown of overall trust and safety within the family dynamic. And when your child doesn't feel safe, which is one of their core fundamental needs in this world, often this may result in heightened senses of anxiety, a hypervigilance, and a deep-seated fear of abandonment. What this will lead to later in life is a breakdown in self-worth, trust in themselves, feeling safe, and difficulty in building healthy, loving, and safe relationships on their own. The third way your addiction is impacting your children is you're modeling unhealthy coping mechanisms. Kids, they absorb and repeat what they see. So if they're witnessing their parents using substances or compulsive destructive behaviors in order to deal with stress, pain, emotions, they're more likely to adopt their own coping mechanisms later in life, whether that is through addiction or their own compulsive destructive behavior. The fourth way in which addiction impacts children is it brings insecure attachment and trust issues into the child's life. A child growing up around addiction, as I've explained, more often than not will struggle with trust issues. And later in life, they will have difficulty in forming secure relationships because their earlier life experience showed them that love, safety, and stability were unpredictable, leading them to forming insecure and unhealthy relationships throughout their life. The fifth impact addiction has on your children is it leaves them carrying a weight of shame and responsibility. Often, children growing up in households with addiction will develop an unconscious sense of responsibility, and they will carry the burden of fixing their parents and or holding the family together. And at the core, they will have a deep sense of shame, like it is their fault that their parents are this way. And what this will lead to in their adulthood is an overdeveloped sense of responsibility and behaviors like people-pleasing and extreme difficulty in setting their own boundaries, setting them up for failure for their own relationships and success in life. So again, it's very apparent that our children learn more from what we do than what we say. If we as parents, we as fathers are turning to substance and compulsive behaviors to deal with our own stresses in life and just to deal with life, then it's more than likely that our children are going to pick up the same patterns or similar. If we're choosing avoidance of our emotions and we're running and stuffing out our emotions, it's more than likely our children are going to adopt the same sort of habit. And I don't say this to shame anyone. I say this because I've lived this and I see it in so many of the men that I work with. We're often so caught up running in life and stuck in our addictions that we don't see how much we're impacting the next generation. But the good news is once we become aware of it, once we change our behavior and we make that powerful choice to live in a different way, then we start to change the narrative and we start to rewrite the story. But how do we do that? So the good news is that awareness is always the first step to change. And the fact that you've watching this video and you've made it this far already means that you care enough to question how much your actions are affecting your children. And that is powerful because this cycle does not need to continue. And so after the awareness is making that powerful choice to change and to choose a life of sobriety. And when you choose a life of sobriety, you are choosing to start to go through that pain, to learn how to navigate your emotions and to choose a different way of living. And when you do that, you immediately model for your children what it is to take responsibility, to change, to learn, and to grow. And that is powerful. It's one of the biggest gifts that you can give yourself and your children. So if you're wondering how to do this, I have quite a few other videos in which I'll pop up at the end about sobriety, about healing, how to make that powerful choice to change. But the main message I want to get to today is how much your actions are impacting your child's life. So the choice is ours. Are we staying in that life of addiction and numbing out and running from life? Or are we modeling a different way of being and choosing a life of sobriety, learning how to move through life in a loving and positive way, impacting our children that way? I truly hope you enjoyed today's video. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more content like this around addiction, fatherhood, personal growth, and transformation. If there's something that really resonated with you, please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your input, or I'd love to hear your story. Never forget how much your story can positively impact another. And if you're ready to make that powerful choice to change today, please reach out, hit the call link button below, and set up a call with me. That is what I do. I help men and fathers that struggle with addiction in order to break free and step into a life of freedom, purpose, and empowerment. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a beautiful day.